Gentlemen, welcome. All right. So, basically, my name is Anthony Tramontana, and I have driven race cars for pretty much my whole life. I actually started racing with a few people in this room, interestingly enough, funny how they're here. So I started out when I was 8 years old racing quarter midgets, and I basically raced something from that point all the way up until now, where I moved up into crate modifieds, up to big block modifieds, and spec modifieds, and I also dropped a 600cc micro sprint. And I've been around high performance driving racing my whole life. So basically what I'm going to run through today is a couple tips and tricks in how you guys can improve your driving performances in the Baja car. So Baja cars are very interesting to drive. They're slow, they don't turn well, their suspension's so driving them can be a challenge. So basically what I'm going to run through today is a bunch of advice on how to drive faster, how to pass, how to race them, so that we can not only be better at competitions, but we can have competitive driving days. So, let's get into it. Let's gotta figure out how this mouse works. Is that it? Okay, so first we gotta get into some basics here. So, the thing with driving, obviously most of you guys should know understeer, oversteer. So what I know this as is loose and tight. So basically, obviously we understand what understeer is. You know, you're turning through the corner, front end pushes, turning, car goes straight. That's not good. Car's too tight. That's the first thing you gotta understand. Second thing you gotta understand is oversteer. So that's when the rear end starts to come out from underneath you. So that's not good either. You don't want either one of these things when you're going through a corner, because that just means your car is not taking the optimum line that you want. You're too busy fighting the car, you're too busy dealing with what's going on, and you can't do what you want with the car. So a big thing that you guys can focus on, even at our driving day today, is feeling what the Baja car feels like to you. If you go into the corner and you turn into the corner and the thing wants to go straight, that's no good. The car's too tight. Now, there's ways to combat that, which we'll get into later, but it's important to have a good understanding of this first and be able to feel it. So one thing that race car drivers have is a really good butt, because you can figure out what's going on with the car through your butt. So basically, you want to be able to feel these things, whether the car is sliding, whether it's pushing, what it's doing, so you can then make corrections to your driving. If you're driving in too fast, the rear end might slide out and you might have to correct that. So now moving on, now we know some of the basics, we can get into the fun stuff. So, surface. So we are dealing with an off-road surface. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with these, but these are short course trucks. So this is pretty much the cooler version of what we do in a full scale. So these are 700-800 horsepower, 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive trucks, full tube chassis, a ton of suspension travel. So basically what we're going to watch in this video is we're going to show how a dirt surface reacts. So this is a pretty good track, pretty well known. As you can see, a dirt surface behaves a lot different than asphalt. You can see not only are they sliding around, but you're overcorrecting, you're undercorrecting, you're running into people, which I did in Canada, that was fun. And the track behaves a lot different, which we'll get into later. But as you guys can just watch here, running on dirt, it's a completely different thing. You got flat tires here, kind of what happened, bikes in Canada. But it's a very different art driving on dirt compared to the road. As you can see, the handling characteristics are a lot different. Here's a nice little onboard of what it's like going over jumps and stuff. So this is actually very similar to what we do. And the way they go around the corner, you can see they're very, the car is very rolled over, the suspension travels a lot, they slide a lot through the dirt while maintaining enough control where they don't lose speed. So, as you can see, dirt, it's a very interesting platform to work on, and you have to use dirt to your advantage. Moving up, there we go, there we go. So momentum. So this is just a very basic image here. It's really not going to help say what I want to say, but just to get an idea. So, as I said earlier, Baja cars are slow. In the aspect of motorsport, Baja cars are the slowest thing in the world. I think little mopeds go faster. So it's important to keep your momentum up in a Baja car. Now, I've driven in the past Crate Sportsman, which is basically a full-size stock car on dirt, and they have a very limited engine. Everybody's the same engine. They're slow. The key in that racing is momentum. How do you keep momentum up? Well, there's many different ways to do it, and really neither of these lines is the right way. So the way to keep momentum up is you want to be able to roll through the corner without hearing the engine change tone. So this is something in the Baja cars, if they're not rattling apart, you can hear. So as you go through the corner, you want to avoid turning too sharply to kill your speed, and you also want to avoid oversteering or to catch the car if it's sliding out, because that'll kill your speed as well. Because when you slide sideways, you're scrubbing off a ton of speed, a ton of momentum, and you're going to lose time. So this is something you can try, especially turn 1 of the small track over at the tech park, which you can try later. When you go into turn 1 at the tech park, which really, I'm not a fan of either one of these lines, but you want to kind of just gradually turn in, and kind of do a combination of them. You want to kind of keep your momentum rolling, keep it going through the corner, and turn 1 at the tech park is the same way. Because our groove going into turn 1 at the tech park, it's pretty sharp, you turn pretty hard right, the car gets all bound up, you lose momentum, you lose speed, you hear the engine bog. Anytime you hear the engine bog in a momentum-based car, that means you're losing time, you're losing speed, you're losing progress. And there was another thing I noticed in Canada too, that a lot of the fast cars, they could recover quicker, but when I was driving Corona, I could keep up with them by just simply keeping my momentum. It's something that Baja drivers, which I was very surprised, didn't really know. They weren't very good at. So if you guys can capitalize on this, it'll be very beneficial to once you guys get to competition, once we get to some more time driving days, which we'll have in the future, that'll definitely help you. So let me secure my line here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Except for Brian. Brian's not allowed. And yes, my pointer is a Jenga block. So, using the track. So, as I talked about earlier, dirt is a very interesting surface. So, these are basically Pro 2-wheel drive buggies. They run the same sort of course you saw earlier. This is actually very similar to what we build and what we do. And there's a lot of important things you can see in this picture. So, first thing I want to touch on is there's obviously a difference in color between here and over here. So, this has been cleaned off by cars going through it. This is nice, fresh dirt. There's no marbles, as we call it, which is, if you guys follow Formula 1, you've heard of marbles and stuff like that off the track. Well, dirt kind of reacts the same way. On asphalt, you get marbles because it's just stuff coming off the track, rubber coming off the tires. On dirt, every time you go through this line, your tire is kicking out marbles this way. All the rough dirt that's been cleaned off the surface is all going to end up over here. This is no bueno. You don't want to touch this. This is very bad. And you'll actually see that on some of our corners at the tech park. When you have all of this junk dirt up here, that's not good at all. Now, in this area, however, which I'll get a different color to kind of signify this, there is a sweet spot. So, this sweet spot in dirt track racing is known as the cushion. So, there is actually an area right, let's see, there's an area right in here, right around the top of the corner, where all the fresh dirt is. Now, all the fresh dirt, it's not all marbly and junk like it is up here, but it's also not been used like it is right here. Up here on the cushion, this is where you can really get some bite. So, what you'll actually see is on our tech park, there are some corners that have pretty big berms on the outside. So basically, the cushion is the beginnings of what a berm could be if you don't knock it down or do anything with it. So really, this guy, I don't know what he's doing. He's way out in Timbuktu. He sucks. This guy's following him for who knows what reason. This guy's right on the line right here. He's got his right rear, right on the good section. He's chilling. This guy ain't making a corner. He's hitting that thing. I don't know what he's doing. But basically, to sum up using the track here, it's very important to stay where the good dirt is and stay out of the junk. I'll erase my little marks here. Hey Brian, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Very good. Glad to hear. Alright, now we're going to get into something here. Hold on. There we go. So, this is a very extreme case that happens in dirt circle track racing. It's known as, the track getting super slick, the track getting, blue grooved, it's called. This probably will not happen unless certain conditions develop, but it's something that's very important to be aware of too. So, as we can see, the track is supposed to be dirt, but it's turning black here. Dirt's not black. That's from the cars wearing out the track and it becomes super slick. Now, you don't want to touch that stuff. As soon as you touch slick dirt like this, and you can see it too, there might be some parts of the tech track that are pretty, sealed over. So, and this is what this is. This is when dirt seals over. So when dirt seals over, it essentially becomes, wet asphalt, wet concrete. You will slide right through it. You have no traction, no nothing. And when you're dealing with a Baja car, You do not want to hit that stuff. You hit this slick stuff, you'll slide and kill your momentum, kill your grip, and it's just bad. It unloads the whole car. The suspension doesn't do what it wants to do because it's just sliding. There's no lateral load on anything. No good. So as we can see, this guy up here is running, as I talked about earlier, the cushion, sweet spot, right up here. So as you guys can kind of tell, the dirt, pretty light, pretty dark around here, but right here, when we get in the good color dirt. So another thing you'll notice too, when we go out to the track after it rains, the dirt's a darker color in some spots. That's where the traction is. Anytime you see some dark dirt, that's not mud. Mud's no good. We don't like mud. But when you see darker colored dirt, that's right where the traction is. So when you're going out there today, I mean, it hasn't really rained much recently, so you probably won't see any of that, but try to avoid the spots that are pretty, slicked over. There's no grip there. You want to avoid those spots, but try and stay where if you see any moisture at all, you want to hit it, launch, get your momentum. All right. The art of the pass. So now we know how to drive the car. We have a good idea of how to take care of ourselves out there. So now how do you pass people? When we go to Canada next year, how do we drive around ETS? How do we drive around these schools that we don't like? Well, this is going to be a very good example of two of the best in dirt late model racing, showing you how to pass. So these are super late models, make a ton of horsepower on dirt, very, very fancy, very expensive. So you got Kyle Larson and Davenport. So basically, as you'll see eventually here, when they start passing, it should be right around here. So one's running the bottom, one's running the top. So one's getting momentum off the top, Larson's going to turn under him here, and he's going to do a thing called a slide job. So that slide job right there, basically what he just did right there is he overdrove the entry of the corner on the bottom while the other guy's up top. Now because he overdrove the entry, the car isn't going to stick on the bottom. Now I have never seen anybody in a Baja car do this. So if you guys can learn how to do this, you will definitely be able to make some passes. So overdrive the bottom of the corner. You want to get in on the bottom of the corner, overdrive the entry. You drove in so hard, you aren't going to stay on the bottom now. So what you're going to do is, since you beat the guy into the corner, now you're going to slide back up across. So now they're going to do a little crossover. Davenport's going to try and do the same thing to him. Larson cleared him up top. So now Larson's gone. So Davenport's going to try and catch him now. Now as you can see, lap traffic is very hectic here. But basically, as you keep watching here, you'll see how these are some of the best drivers in the country and how they navigate this stuff. Car low, he's going to dive it off, wash up, come back down, make a good run. Now Davenport's back on it, so the way these guys drive is right on the edge. You're right on the top, you're going as hard as fast as you can. But if you can master that slide job path, which there should be another one coming up soon, then that way you will be able to make some passes. And there's very few people that I think are going to be, able to do that. So if we have cars that can do that and drivers that can do that, it's going to be great for us. And it's something you guys can try too. You can always go out to the tech park today and pretend like you're racing with somebody. Enter the corner a little higher, like they do to come back underneath somebody, which I'll get into in a second. Practice setting up passes and stuff like that. But as you can see, this is just, showing how good these guys are, picking different lanes, getting around lap traffic, making passes. Because there's a lot of lap traffic in endurance races. You'd be surprised, there's some really slow cars out there that get in the way. So, if you can get around cars like these guys can, it'll be great. Alright. There we go. So, blank slide. Yes, right.
So, I know not everybody was there, but thinking back to Canada at the ball,
yes.
Were there sections of track that you think were wide enough to make that maneuver?
100%.
They're
So,
obviously, like on the video, it's a bigger car, but they're using a lot more width.
Yes, that is the one thing that I'm surprised nobody tried, and we couldn't try because our cars are slow, especially Corona. But we're not going to draw it now. There was corners in Canada. They were pretty wide and big, and they were bent, just like a normal corner, nothing like that. But the problem was there was two ruts going in here, and then there was, as I said earlier, like a berm, like a cushion building right here. Well, what I'm surprised, the ETS cars, because this was all fresh up here. I mean, there was a little bit of junk up there, but it was fresh for the most part. I'm surprised none of the faster guys tried to run that high line and come down with momentum, because it was bent. I mean, that's one of the things in Canada that if we had a faster car, we definitely could have done.
And follow up, is it going to work in the snow too?
Yes. So the snow, which I don't want to say it's similar to dirt, but it's very close.
The thing you have to watch out with was the way they pack.
Yes, well, that's because they're idiots there. They don't have packs now, because it wasn't a real snowcat. But yeah, so that's one of the things that would help us in Canada if we had faster cars. We definitely could have made that line. And the other thing is too, is the more times you run this top line, you keep running it, keep running it. The nice thing about that is it'll slowly get better. So one of the big things in dirt track racing too is if everybody's on the bottom and nobody's on the top, there'll always be one guy who's running lap after lap after lap on the top, trying to get that lane to work. So he might clean it off. Like all this junk up here, he might clean it off and he might get a run and start getting some momentum up there. All right, any more questions before I move on?
So you said the snow is similar to dirt or whatever.
Yes.
Does the type of dirt matter? Because like our track's pretty sandy.
Yes and no. With the racing we do, since it's not sealed clay, it pretty much doesn't matter at that point. The snow is pretty similar to our track when it's pretty wet because you're sliding around. It's heavy. You're going through some stuff. You're not just sitting on top of the dirt. Like the stuff that I race, you're pretty much sitting on top of the dirt most of the time. It's usually clay. But I'd say our track is pretty similar when it's getting pretty wet to snow. So the big thing I want to touch on here is how to pass. This actually, I don't even know how to label our markers here. Geez, I got 13 green markers. You know it's red. So basically, what I'm going to set up here is just the basic, how to pass somebody without, doing the slide job. So when you're going through the corner, say you have a car entering here, right? He's going to take his normal line through the corner, right? So there's a couple different things you can look at here. You can check the bottom, see if you can get on the bottom. If you can get in underneath him and you can get even with him, get him in the corner, great, do it. But if you can't, the important thing to set up for is actually over here. So getting into the corner is the most important thing. So, which I'm sure some of you guys know, if you were to enter up here, right? Then this is the guy you're trying to pass, number one, number two, over here, big car. So you want to enter on his right rear, and you want to come up higher, and you want to end up down here where this X is. He's going to enter low, and he's going to exit high. So when he enters low, unless he stops in the middle of the corner, there's no way he's going to be exiting all the way up here. He's going to be screwed. He's going to get messed up in the middle. He's going to end up, coming around the corner. So what you can do is you're actually going to enter on his right rear. So you got your two cars here. You're going to enter on his right rear. Oh, that's actually a good idea. I like this. So you're going to enter on his right rear. He's going to go through the corner here. Now, since you're all the way up here, you can turn and have a nice late apex here. Come down underneath him and make the pass. So that's one easy way to make the pass, and that's something you guys can try today. Try when you're out on the track, entering the corner as high as you can, and then cutting back across and coming out on the bottom. That's how you can make a simple pass. Now, it also works the other way if you're passing on the bottom. Say roles are reversed. And this guy's trying to enter up top here. Get in on him, stay right there, and then clear him coming off the corner. And all that that's a whole different thing with dealing, like, are you in on the guy, are you next to the guy enough? But basically, if that person can see you and your front tires and your front end is up to their driver's compartment, we pretty much call that good. You're in there, you're clean. So that's one simple way to pass, and it's something you guys can actually go practice today. There's plenty of room to enter corners high around a small track. There's banked corners, the very last corner is pretty banked. You can try, getting a run up off the top and pretend you're passing somebody and turn down underneath of them. There's definitely a lot of opportunity for you guys to try that today. So moving on from the blank slide, things to try today. So just to wrap up here.
Your race car.
You know what? Fine, I'll allow it.
So how much of a difference is there for doing that kind of like road passing with or just passing with four-wheel drive versus two-wheel drive or rear also?
It's complicated. I would say there really isn't a difference. The nice thing about four-wheel drive is as you saw on like the very first video of the trucks, when they're four-wheel drive, you can throw it into the corner a lot harder and it'll stick. Two-wheel drive, you have to more be careful with it. Two-wheel drive is obviously more of a momentum thing, especially on like Canada and snow, because you don't want to spin the tires up. But once you get rolling, there's less of a chance to spin tires. In four-wheel drive, you can slow down and make those moves as much as you want. Like in four-wheel drive, I'd recommend getting to the bottom somewhere. Because if you can be under the bottom, slow down, make the corner come off on the bottom and clear them, that's great. You have the four-wheel drive to do that. But if you have two-wheel drive, I would suggest running that top momentum line, because that way, you can carry your momentum, you're not losing momentum. That's another big thing too. If you're in an endurance race and you don't want to lose speed, you don't want to lose time on passing somebody, set them up where you don't time it right where you can come out underneath them and just keep rolling, not losing your momentum. Good? Any other questions before we get to the final things?
So racing lanes outside or?
What'd you say?
I said racing lanes sort of outside of the corner? Or-
Yeah. Well, yeah. When you enter on the outside like that, there's a lot of different decisions you can make on the outside. One of the things you can do is you can stay on the outside and clear them on the outside if you want to. If you want to cut back under, like I said, you can do that too. It all is just judging on where they're good. That's the other thing you gotta understand. It's like, where are they fast? What are they doing? Make sense? All right, so some things we can try today at the tech park. So, first thing, work on the entry and exit. Maintain your momentum. Listen to that engine. Listen to what the engine's telling you. If you hear the thing starting to bog down and slow down, not good. You aren't keeping your momentum up. Another thing you can do, practice passing. Set up the corner like you're gonna pass. Go out there and pretend there's a ghost car in front of you. Make some passes on them. You know, try entering high, try entering low. Feel what the car is doing. And then identify the parts of the track that have the most grip. See where the car wants to slide out, see where it wants to push the nose, see where the car works for you. It's important to make the car work for you. And another thing you can do is while you're identifying the parts of the track that have the most grip, pick points on the track that are markers, where to turn in the corner, you know, where to let off the gas, stuff like that, so you hit the same spot of the track every time. But other than that, that pretty much sums up on how to be fast in a Baja car. So any questions? Yes. Comment.
From everybody else. So with Vice, the black, white, and pink and blue car, it understeers very heavily. So just keep a lot of the stuff they set in mind when you're going into the sharp corners.
Pretty much don't put the thing in four-wheel drive if you want to get around the track.
Yep. All right, well, other than that, let's go to the tech park. Let's try out some new things.